Hey, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Ed Stockhausen. I am with the Cleveland Neighborhood Progress Team. We're going to get started in just a couple minutes. So if you need that cup of coffee, go get it. You still got some time. There's water and I think some tea over there. Otherwise, please make yourselves comfortable. Everyone should have copies of the neighborhood platform at your seats, and we'll get started in just a few minutes. Thank you. All right, good afternoon. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today, and thank you, everybody who is watching online on CSU's live stream. Thank you guys for joining us today. I'd like to invite Dr. Roland Anglin, Dean of the Maxine Goodman Levin College of Urban Affairs here at Cleveland State University, up to the stage to welcome everybody today.
Well, good afternoon. Welcome to the Maxine Goodman Levin College of Urban Affairs. You know, it's good to see all of you safe and sound. We're slowly emerging from this life-defining event we call a pandemic. For that, we should be grateful, but also vigilant. But the other thing we need to be grateful for is you, the core practitioners of the industry we know as community and economic development. You are the first responders in dealing with neglect and the physical decay often brought by national disinvestment in our communities. The Institute brings with it the opportunity to reflect, to learn from peers and experts. So you honor us by holding the Institute here at Levin. Now, I know that for many of you, the college nurtured your desire to change the world one neighborhood at a time. And we are proud of those who came through our college. And for those of you who did not, today you are honorary Leviners. We will always support the community development field in Cleveland and beyond. We're glad to see you. We celebrate the work that you do and what the field is accomplishing. Again, welcome. And now I'm going to bring Tanya Maness up.
Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to actually ask our board chair, Jeff Patterson, to come up to the stage to speak for a minute. His day job is as the CEO and president of the Cuyahoga County Metropolitan Housing Authority, but as the board chair of CNP, he has been incredibly supportive of my less than 1 year tenure at at Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, and I have to say every day I'm thankful for his presence and his leadership and his guidance. We couldn't be doing the things that we are right now at CNP and in this community without him. So please.
Thank you, Tanya, and good afternoon, everyone. First, I just want to say that, as Dean England said, it's great to see people together. It's great to be as a group. I hope that we can someday get past some of the things that we're dealing with so we can really get back together and be able to build what we need to build as we are going ahead. I want to first recognize my fellow CNP board members that may be in attendance, as well as members of the New Village Corporation and Village Capital Corporation. All of those individuals are folks that are volunteers that are a part of this whole Cleveland Neighborhood Progress, so I do want to make sure I acknowledge all of them, their hard work. If any of them are here, if you could please stand and be recognized. All right. And I would also like to take this opportunity to recognize any of the staff that's here from CNP. Their work, their efforts, their passion, their commitment is second to none. We appreciate all that they do, and if they are here, I would like for them to please stand and be recognized as well. Thank you. And, you know, as we go forward, you know, we've had a lot of partners that have been a part of this process that are allowing this forum that we're having today to take place. So I want to acknowledge the Cleveland Foundation and the Gunn Foundation for funding the neighborhood platform. I also want to thank Policy Bridge for being our partner in this neighborhood platform. And most importantly, I want to thank the leaders from the CDC, the Community Development Corporations, all those individuals that work and do the day-to-day work out in the community that is the foundation of what this neighborhood is all about. So I want to thank you for your contributions that you do every day. So without further ado, because you sure as heck didn't come to hear me talk for a long period of time, I'm going to turn it back over to Tanya. But I will say that what we're doing today is very, very important. You know, Cleveland has so much to offer, and there's so many great people here that are doing so many great things. And I think today is an opportunity for us to not only reflect on some of the things that we have done, but to begin to focus on some of the things that we need to do and be able to set that path to kind of keep Cleveland going in the right direction. So I look forward to the dialogue. I encourage everybody to participate and enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Thank you.
You're just stuck with me for a couple minutes. So I want to start again with thanking the college for hosting us today. These are not easy times, and to bring us together, to be willing to do this is really meaningful to us. So thank you, Dean Anglin and Molly and all of those who bent over backwards to make this happen today. With that in mind, I do want to cover a few COVID safety precautions, things that we really committed to the college that we would follow. So if you're not eating, drinking, or talking, please do wear your mask. There are stations with hand sanitizer throughout the area, and then on a positive note, coffee and tea is available. And if all of you paid attention when this all of this thinking and hard work is done, we are gathering at the Hofbrauhaus to hopefully celebrate a little bit together on the hard work that so many of you have done. So I just want to talk for a minute about, why did we do this? Why a neighborhood platform at this moment? It started with a conversation I had with Colleen Gilson about the last time that we were really in a contested mayoral race, and the hard work that went into putting together a platform that really helped then Mayor Jane Campbell come into office and have a blueprint, right? She came into office, and the work that the CDC leaders did at that moment really helped her be effective on day one. And so as we are seeing what's really a transformational time in our community, obviously with a new mayor in January, but also with what will be a very new cohort and group of city council leaders, that's really the spirit under which we brought the CDC executive directors together, many of which were clamoring to do this work, and probably were not prepared for the amount of time that Policy Bridge and CNP were going to ask of them, but they gave of that time, and I think what you see in front of you now is really the result of that. I'm preaching to the choir here, but we know that CDCs are on the ground. They have the best sense of what small businesses are looking for in the community. And so, again, this feedback loop that we really believe we need to have with City Hall and with City Council starts with this neighborhood platform. We really believe that this afternoon, when our mayoral candidates are with us, we're coming to them in a spirit of partnership. We want to help them, and I say we because I look at CNP and the CDCs together doing this, help them bring their vision into the neighborhoods, help them enact new policies, new practices, new ideas, but just as much, we'll be informing those practices, those policies, and those ideas, and we'll need to be that feedback loop to them. Some days it'll be an easy conversation, and I think if we're all doing our jobs well, some days it won't be an easy conversation. But that's really how change happens, and so what we really strive to put together here was a blueprint, a plan, and as you look at the recommendations, one of the things that was really important that we strove to do was to ensure that what's in the document are actionable things over the next 4 years. It's not that everything will be able to be realized in the next 4 years, but it was ideas, but also things that could be accomplished. And so as we looked at this, there were some key themes that I just want to review, but keep in mind as you look at this and as we go through this day, action on day one. That was the intent. So some of these key themes, and I know most of them, but I'd probably screw them up if I just tried to say them off the top of my head, is leadership is paramount, partnership and collaboration are essential, open and transparent communication is necessary, robust civic and community outreach and engagement is mandatory, and equitable development will elevate Cleveland. And I think that's, the core of the themes that kept coming out as we had conversations with CDC executive directors. Again, the actual recommendations are divided between housing, economic development, neighborhood infrastructure, and municipal modernization. And again, you'll see really practical recommendations, like I see Director Wackers here, who's been leading the plan for the 10-year housing plan for the city. We really want to make sure that the new administration reviews that plan, provides input, and then acts on it, right? That it doesn't end up on the shelf. That there are programs to help us with commercial revitalization, with bringing white box programs into the neighborhoods. That every neighborhood that has less than a 30% tree canopy, that those neighborhoods are addressed. And then I think one of the most important ones, and I'm just grabbing a few to give you a flavor of the platform, is that we institute comprehensive technology reforms that transform how Cleveland collects and uses data and engages with the public. I think that's probably one of the things that came loud and clear from our CDCs. So that gives you a sense of the platform and hopefully encourages you to really engage in today's activities. So here's what the day is going to look like. At 2 p.m., we're going to break out into sessions that you probably already signed up for, but if you didn't or you don't remember, we can help you with that. And And those sessions are based around housing, economic development, and neighborhood infrastructure, three of the main areas. At 3:15, our candidates will be joining us. We'll do a Q&A with them and definitely leave time for you to ask questions of them, all around the neighborhood platform. But first, we're going to ask Colleen Gilson, our VP of CDC Advancement, and several of our CDC leaders to discuss the formation of the platform and what it means to them. So thank you very much, and Colleen, take it away.
So I've been told that these microphones work. I'm hoping that is the case. It's always been a little dream of mine to be a talk show host. But I am not as smooth as my CEO, so I had to write down my remarks. And I just realized I forgot glasses, but that's okay. So as Tanya said, I am Colleen Gilson. I'm the Vice President of CDC Advancement for Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. The development of the Cleveland Neighborhood Platform would not have happened without many, many people. At the center of it has been the CDCs, as you heard Tanya. But I would be doing a disservice if I didn't mention two other people who came to this with such enthusiasm, support, and tireless work on this development. Tanya is one of them. As Tanya shared already, very early in her tenure, I went to her and said, we have to do this. We definitely have to do this. I was part of that platform literally 2 decades ago that created that roadmap for then incoming Mayor Jane Campbell. And I remember her being at forums during that process with the, wait a minute, I have a prop, with the platform from 2001 and referring to it. Good thing I'm a bit of a pack rat. That said, it also truly galvanized the industry at a really, really important point, and we needed to do that this year. We absolutely needed to do that this year. So thank you, Tanya, and thank you for your leadership. A superhero, though, in this process, however, is my colleague, Ed Stockhausen. Ed is our Vice President of Advocacy and Public Policy. He's been steadfast in his charge in getting this right. He has connected us with other policymakers, advocacy champions, and has been a careful steward of the development of this plan. Ed, take a bow. You deserve it. I also wanted to just quickly call out my partner. My team grew this week. It grew over the last few weeks, which is really excellent. Melinda Dang is our Cleveland Foundation Public Service Fellow, and Lindsay Wheeler has joined us as Manager of Organizing and Community Engagement. But Melinda Gigante has been with me for almost 2 years, or maybe 2 years? I don't know, we lost a year in that. And Melinda has really been amazing in helping Ed to get to this day, but also in the development of the platform, so thank you, Melinda. So I am really honored to be hosting this conversation with 3 CDC leaders this afternoon, just to get their reactions to the development of this plan. Each was selected very purposefully and with meaning. And as I describe each of my guests here on my afternoon talk show host, I'll invite them to join me up here. Rosemary Mudry is the Executive Director of West Park CAM's Neighborhood Development. Of my 3 guests, she's the newest to her position of leadership in the CDC industry, but is not without vast experience, having served at Ohio City Inc. and Old Brooklyn CDC. She is talented, my friends. She's a deep thinker and has added a lot of value to this process, and I would say is one to watch. She's also the CDC director in the neighborhood that I live in, so Rosemary also gets 5 a.m. text messages. No, not text messages, emails from me, but sorry about those. But they will continue to happen as I'm running through the neighborhood. Jamar Doyle is the executive director of Greater Collinwood Development Corporation. Jamar began working in the southern portions of Collinwood about 6 years ago. He was a loaned executive when he first went to the Collinwood neighborhood to help an organization that was having some struggles. Over these past 6 years, he has managed the expansion of the CDC to serve all of Collinwood. You can take your mask off now that you're up here. His understanding of equitable community and economic development, as well as community and social engagement, is deep. In short, Jamar gets it. Lastly, and never least, and quite honestly, first in my books, is John Analifo. John has been a personal mentor to me for all of my years in community development. His tenure as executive director of a Cleveland CDC began in the Buckeye community in 1994. He assumed leadership of the Famicos Foundation in 2002. He is quite literally the dean of Cleveland CDC industry, having been in a position of leadership for over 27 years. His commitment to Cleveland is unmatched, and he is an ardent champion for the advancement of the people he serves. Thank you for writing that for me, John. I'm just kidding. No, I mean it with all my heart. When I was at the Cleveland Neighborhood Development Coalition, it was John Analifo who was the board chair that helped to hire me for that position. So in many respects, he has a lot to do with where I am today. So thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I didn't start the questions yet. I'm just kidding. No, so again, I was purposeful, but with going with one of our newest leaders of CDCs all the way to our most seasoned, mature leader. So thanks for joining me, and I'm John. I am going to start with you. As the sole member of this panel, you're the only one besides me, and maybe a few other people in the room, that participated in the creation of the 2001 platform, this document that I used as my prop earlier. Tell us about that experience and how it differed from this one. And from your perspective, why is the creation of the Cleveland Neighborhood Platform now in 2020 so important to your work?
Thank you, madam, and good afternoon, everyone. In reflecting about this particular question, I would say that it was something new at the time. It was something that had never been done before. Generally, the CDCs at the time were on their own. They fought for scraps, and we were territorial. You didn't cross my service area. If you bought a house in my neighborhood without me knowing, you will get it, and you will refund that money. That was the environment that we were working in at that particular time. Coming together to put together a platform that we were able eventually to present to the mayoral candidates and the council candidates at the time, the same thing that is happening today, was history. It was history again because it hadn't been done before. But by crafting that strategy and presenting it as a voice representing the CDC industry, it made us become a powerhouse. Prior to doing this, we were always looked as beggars, except my language. But by doing this, we made ourselves very relevant. Those individuals, those candidates realized how important we were in service deliveries to our residents. We knew them, we worked with them, we touched them, we felt them, and there was this belief that if you really wanted to get to the residents, first go to the CDCs and ask questions. It was then realized that this is important. I would also add to you that one of my greatest experience, and some of us here probably don't know this, that the department of building and housing was housed in community development. By this platform, then we were able to push and successfully had an independent building and housing department in the city of Cleveland that allowed the increase of capacity for the city in housing development. Permitting process improved, still has a long way to go, but it helped do that. My experience also was watching this history develop, being able to be a part of it, and still a part of it. And I'm looking forward to the future.
Thank you, John. Thank you. I have to say that, again, having been part of that process with you, it was a little bit different. We were gathered in rooms. Obviously, we couldn't gather this year to develop it in person. We did all of our meetings over Zoom, a lot of emails. But it was one of those old school exercises where we had things written on boards and we did the dot exercise, which I'm so glad to see we're incorporating that this afternoon, kind of bringing back a little bit of the past. So thank you for your leadership. I did want to say, since the pandemic and since a lot of folks were sheltering at home, we've instituted regular CDC executive director meetings every other week. It was John early on, I think, that brought a few of us to tears by reminding us that we are made for this work. This is service, and this is servant leadership, and you certainly embody that. So you've made me cry a lot over the years for good reasons. And that day you did, because we were looking at a lot of blank stares on the screen that day where people were really, really scared, and you reminded us why we do this work. So thank you, John. Rosemary, I'm going to go to you next. No, not yikes. You were a very, very important part of this process, bringing in some newer thoughts and some reflections from the new generation of leaders. What do you consider to be the most important recommendations in this plan?
So that's, I mean, it's hard to pick just one, but I think for me, you know, my favorite part of the process was similar to what John expressed, in that it brought all of us together and helped us have a unified voice. It reinforced that, you know, our neighborhoods might look different, but many of us have the same priorities, and we each bring nuances to the table that make our particular CDC unique, but also when we're sharing them with each other, we learn a lot from each other and gain best practices that way. So I think that was the best part of the process for me. I think if I had to kind of highlight one section, I think the discussion around City Hall culture, I'm eager and excited to work with an administration that wants to see our industry and other industries in Cleveland as a partner. And so I think, you know, there's a balance of some very specific recommendations, including a quarterly meeting with the mayor's cabinet with the CDC industry. And I just think that that will be an invaluable tool to us and to the mayor. Hopefully we can bring value to them, but especially to us, because without that communication, it's so hard to make progress and increase our collective impact. So,
why do you do this work?
Oh, I think, you know, at the heart of it, it's community development doesn't just look at one issue. It looks at every challenge in our neighborhood and sees them as all linked together, and allows us to think about how things in our lives and in our community's life impact one another and try to tackle it as a whole. So, you know, a love of Cleveland and wanting to see a better community and not just get to be on one issue, I think is why community development is so special.
Thank you, Rosemary. I'll point out too that Rosemary lives in the neighborhood that John serves, so we have some really, really wonderful connections up on this stage. my friend Jamar.
And I grew up in that neighborhood,
You grew
by the
up
way.
in the neighborhood. There you go. There you go. Jamar, what do you hope for out of this work? And from your perspective, what would success look like after the first year of the next mayoral administration?
Well, you know, I think first I'll kind of lean on something that Rosemary said. I think one of the valuable pieces of it was just the coming together to share ideas and sort of think about, we're at this moment where we'll have a new administration, so what does that mean? And how can that then shape our future, right? And so I'd hope that that energy continues. I would hope that we would continue to come together for those purposes. I would hope too that this document really encourages fruitful debate amongst the candidates, because I think there's a lot in here around housing, economic development, neighborhood infrastructure, that specifically talks about the needs of our neighborhoods. And again, as Rosemary said, we may have different challenges, but a lot of times the underlying principles, the underlying symptoms that are causing it are the same. So how do we attack that, and how do we do that across the entire city? Do so from a lens of diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice, and make sure that as we tackle these issues, we are being fair, just, and equitable across the board. And I think, you know, the plan outlays all of the items under housing and economic development and the different principles. I think in the first 100 days for me, and people may disagree, I think that fourth one is actually the first that I think could be tackled by the end of that first year, and that's really the modernization of City Hall. I think we have to give, the new administration has to make sure that they're giving the employees at City Hall the tools, the resources, the culture to tackle these intractable problems. You know, we all know about the crime that's happening in the city. We all know about housing inequity and being able to hold maybe our banks accountable for maybe not meeting CRA lending in the way in which they should, or finding ways to tackle redlining that still persists in some of our neighborhoods. But we can't do any of that stuff if City Hall is not functioning. So we have to give the employees at City Hall and this administration the tools, the resources, the culture, that then we can begin to tackle those things. So I think if at the end of the first 100 days, we're all sitting in a room saying, wow, so much has improved, and we talk with our partners at City Hall and they say, so much has been improved, and I'm able to do my job with so much more vigor and gusto because, you know, we have been given the tools and the resources and we've modernized City Hall. Then we can begin that partnership that John and Rosemary have talked about, so that together we can tackle all of these other problems, making sure that children aren't poisoned in our homes, and that we can tackle, you know, housing inequity and economic development, bringing jobs back in. But I think none of that happens if we cannot effectively interface with City Hall.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I wanted to take a quick minute for any executive directors that are here with us today that participated to recognize you. If you would stand. Again, as was stated earlier, come on, Chris Alvarado, I saw you. Sorry. Mark Adam Selvig, thank you so much. As was pointed out, we asked a lot of already very overworked folks in putting together this plan. You should be terrifically proud of this work. The time and attention, the detail that's in it. If I were a candidate for mayor, I would say thank you, because you just gave me a playbook. So I also wanted to point out to my friend, former Councilman Matt Zone, who reminded me he was running for his first election when this platform came out in 2001. And I think you carried that around with you as well. So it works. So thank you all. Another quick question for all of you. I'll start over here with you, John. What does success look like in 2025 at the start of a next re-election campaign?
For many of us who are younger, who will still be looking at Cleveland in 2025, I think that recognition of Cleveland as a city that is diverse and inclusive will be, in my opinion, a mark of success in 2025, that whoever is running for mayor at that time, the current mayor then will be able to say, look at what I did. It wasn't like this before I came to power, but I have made the city of Cleveland a city where people of all kinds can come and live freely and work and call this place their home. That will be my success measure for the city of Cleveland in 2025.
And I have a feeling that we will be around in 2025, John. Maybe we'll be back on this stage again with an updated platform. But I have every reason to believe that you will be part of that success, and you will be part of continuing to champion that this platform and the policies that they're in and the things we will advocate for will come to fruition.
I was meant to say those who will still be working.
Okay. Jamar, same question. What does success look like to you?
You know, I think John answered it best, which is why he's the dean. And, you know, related to that answer, I just think that I no longer hear from contemporaries that I grew up with that they need to move to find opportunity. As a person who grew up in Cleveland, and, you know, now I'm 42, and I hear so often from folks I grew up with, I'm getting ready to move, I'm moving south, I'm moving west. You know, there's a new sort of reverse migration that's happening, particularly I think among the African American community, because there's just a view that there's more opportunity south. And I don't think that's true, but I think to John's point, we have to highlight what are the centers of excellence that are here in Cleveland, and then begin to build upon those so that by 2025, to his point, we can say we have done so through a lens of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I would love to be able to look back and say that, you know, in addition to attracting folks and talent into this region, we have actually maintained talent, and we have grown our talent. We have students graduating every year through CMSD and other school districts. We should also be making sure that they're patched into all of the opportunities that exist now. When we talk about manufacturing, having employment opportunities right now because their workforce is aging out, or hearing that the clinic needs to go overseas to find employees to work in the medical community. Why are we not making sure that children and people that are here in Cleveland are also getting access to that? And I know there's a lot of work to do around that, but I think that to me would be a great success to say, not only did we become attractive to outsiders, because a lot of times you talk to outsiders, they actually get here and love Cleveland, but it's the Clevelanders that are the hardest on Cleveland. And so if we can change that, we can be unstoppable.
Oh, such a great point, Jamar, and I think our industry is so important to that message and carrying that through. And I know you all do it every day. We need folks to join that chorus with us, and we're well positioned. Rosemary, same question to you. What does success look like?
Yeah, I think, John, there's a thread in what both John and Jamar said around perception. And I think, to me, in 2025, there needs to be a perception and a feeling, especially by people who are coming, sort of the next generation that's coming of age in Cleveland, that Cleveland is a place whose leaders value them being here, who value the contributions they're going to make, and that Cleveland is a place where people are going to set aside their ego in order to collaborate and make a better collective impact. I think there's just a sense of, you know, John talked about it a long time ago, that sense of sort of feudalism in Cleveland, and I think that that has changed but continued. And in 2025, I would love for that to not be a talking point anymore, and for us to be advocating for Cleveland and our region as a whole instead of competing amongst each other. And I think that really starts with the mayor's leadership and how the mayor views the surrounding communities and the people in the community itself by valuing both opinions.
Awesome. I'm going to answer my own question, and I'm going to answer it in a little bit of a different way. You all know that Cleveland Neighborhood Progress is going through a strategic planning process, or I shouldn't say you all know, many of you know. Success for me in 2025 is and this is going to sound a little goofy, that you guys all sleep really well at night. Because I know the struggles that you have. I've sat in that seat. I was an executive director. I've received your phone calls about the struggles, the strains in relationships, in resources. So to me, in 2025, I'm not saying that there's just vats of cash everywhere that you're digging into, but that this industry is well resourced, that you aren't competing the way that many of you have to for, I will say, scraps, for a project here and there or chasing money, but that we are resourced as an industry to deliver alongside a mayor and Cleveland City Council on this platform. So we have a few minutes left. Any questions from all of you out there for this esteemed panel of leaders that we have? Come on, there has to be one out there. Go ahead.
If the city was functioning the way we all want it to function, what do you think the work of CDC should be?
A really good question.
She said if City Hall was functioning the way
If we were, I don't want to paraphrase you, but if everything was in line, right?
Yeah, if this platform gets adopted,
Yeah.
what should we work on?
What should the work of CDCs be if this platform gets adopted? I'm going to take a crack. I'll start us out here. Again, having served in this role and then served in the role of CDC Executive Director and then now in the position, I think that always, first and foremost, it's the needs and wants and what the community says. So I think it's steeped in and continues to be steeped in community engagement, listening to the people, the residents, and the stakeholders, and responding to their needs. I think all too often we're responding with programs because that's what funding allows us to do versus what really needs to be done in community. Each one of the neighborhoods that John, Jamar, and Rosemary represent have some core aligned programs or functions, but they're also very different. There are retail districts throughout all three, but maybe a little bit stronger in some areas. Jamar, you have 5 retail districts
Yes.
within your community, but
Don't remind me.
I'm sorry. One of my questions was actually going to be what keeps you up at night, but I was like, oh, that could be the whole time that we're here. I don't want to go there. But yeah, 5 retail districts, but it's a sliver of the amount of resources that you get. So matching resources with needs would be what I would like to see CDCs responding to.
I would probably say that if everything were in line, the CDCs will always have something to be doing in the communities. It will never go away. Let us liken it to raising your child. You have a child as an infant. That child is nursed to grow. They go to college, they come back on vacation, they get a job, they move out. Your duty as a parent never ends, because that child always calls mom or dad when something happens. That is where we will be. I wish that would be the case. And if it is, we will always find something else to continue engaging our residents and making sure that that progress made is sustained into the near future.
I would like to, I'll paraphrase by saying, rather than being plate maker, you continue to be a plate spinner. Don't let them fall. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. I love the analogy to being parenting. I mean, because in many cases we are rearing and raising communities in this work that we do, but with the input. Maybe you don't always ask the child for the input. You tell them what to do. But I love that analogy. It's quite beautiful. Jamar or Rosemary?
You know, I echo everything that both of you have said, and I think what I would add is that, you know, CDCs would continue to be the connector through that engagement between City Hall, again, if they've adopted this platform, and the communities, because one, we've got our ears on the ground, We're connected in an intimate way with our residents, our business owners, our retail districts, and so being able to surface their needs and concerns to City Hall in the framework of the platform that's been developed. And then also, I think, planning for the future so that, again, City Hall has a planning department, and how do we connect residents who may not be able to or may feel that they don't have a voice in terms of what happens within their neighborhood or their community. I think CDCs play a specific role to be able to connect, be that connector between City Hall and residents and businesses so that they're able to have their voice surfaced and they're able to have their voice heard, and their needs and concerns are then reflected as we begin to plan 2022, 2025, and beyond.
Rosemary, final words.
I think I'd add that, I think Jessica is getting to a question of like, are we substituting for services that the city should be offering? And I think, if this platform is successful, then no, our role should not have to be to substitute for things that really are best housed in city government. But I do think having folks at a neighborhood level that can have a bit more intimate knowledge, no matter how deep your knowledge is at the government level, Cleveland is a large city. And so, again, I think for me, it's about if this is implemented, it allows us to expand our collective impact. If certain services are performing at a high level, the CDCs don't have to do those services that really aren't we're not best equipped to do, and we can focus our energy on other things that leverage the resources and the infrastructure and the things that the city is doing. So I think for me, it's about in 2025, or in the future, not replacing what is best centralized, but complementing it.
Excellent responses. Thank you all. I hope you agree why these three are sitting with me today. Rosemary, it's awesome to watch you come into this role, and thank you for what you do in the community that we serve, or that I live in, I should say. Jamar, we've been through a lot. We've been through a lot as you've grown into your role and as you have taken the organization in amazing directions, and continue to walk with you. And John, thank you for letting me walk with you. And thank you for all your guidance throughout the years and for being an example to all of us about servant leadership. It's always pleasant to have you around, even though we chide each other and we kid each other. Thanks for being here today as well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Colleen.
And now mask up. We're going off that way.
I have to go and get another one.
All right. So here's what you guys can expect next. Starting at 2 o'clock, we're going to have our breakout sessions. I believe everybody probably signed up for one. Just in case you need a reminder, we have one on housing, one on economic development, and one on neighborhood infrastructure. Economic development is going to be right here off the atrium in the Dively room, all right? Housing and neighborhood infrastructure are both upstairs. Housing will be in the Bonda boardroom, so go up the stairs and then come all the way back this way. And neighborhood infrastructure will be in the suite room. We have some of our CNP team members here to help direct you, but we've got about 15 minutes where you guys can grab some coffee or water. We're going to get some Zoom webinars set up, so please offer us a little bit of grace as we welcome about 100 people who are joining us via live stream. So we want to make sure that they can participate both in engaging with the webinar, but also getting to join you guys in doing some voting later on this afternoon. Thank you guys. We will see you at 2 o'clock in the breakout rooms.